Deep beneath the world's greatest ocean lives a sponge unlike any other.
Hooray! Bubble party!
For years, he enjoyed a carefree life.
Hey! Who blew this bubble?
But all that was about to change.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
Well, good luck with that.
My crown! Ah! Someone has stolen the royal crown! Who can stop me now?
You, be back here with my crown in exactly 10 days.
He can do it in 9,
8,
7,
6,
5.
Patrick, shush!
6 it is then.
Now,
What is it?
The paddy wagon. Sesame seed finish. Steel-belted pickles. And under the hood?
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
he will begin a journey to become the hero he was born to be.
Are they laughing at us?
No, Patrick. They're laughing next to us.
Hooray for SpongeBob!
Get ready
Let's get it on!
for big adventure.
Oh, boy.
How you doing?
Big trouble.
Things have gotten a lot worse since you left.
Plankton's turned everyone we know into slaves. Even Gary.
Big twists.
Oh, my gosh! Patrick, you have a mustache!
So do you!
Big action. And big surprises when Sponge meets World
Who are you?
I'm David Hasselhoff. For the very first time.
Hooray!
The SpongeBob Squarepants Movie.
Hi guys, and I'm Retro Critic here. And today I'll be reviewing and talking about the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. Yeah, that's right. Today I'll be reviewing and talking about the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. Yeah, so this movie, okay, so the SpongeBob Squarepants movie, okay, I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie. This is actually, this is a movie I grew up watching. Okay, so basically, and you know what, this was a movie that I saw in theaters in like 2004. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old when I saw this movie in theaters. Just a lot of childhood nostalgia with this. Movie. I grew up with this movie. Definitely a lot of childhood nostalgia with this movie. And yeah, I saw the SpongeBob Squarepants movie in 2004 when I was like 7 or 8 years old. So I saw this movie in the theater, with my mom and brother, So yeah, I definitely have fond memories of this movie. This was a really nice movie I watched growing up with. This was a nice movie I watched growing up with. So definitely a lot of like childhood memories with this movie. But basically, yeah, the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. So it was written and directed by Steven Hillenburg, and it was a movie and the SpongeBob Squarepants movie was originally going to be the series finale, basically. It was going to be like the final send-off to SpongeBob. But of course, they made more SpongeBob seasons and movies after that because, they want to milk that sponge, because Nickelodeon wants to milk that SpongeBob. They want to make more money in cash out of SpongeBob, but of course they do. Oh God. But look, let's get this out of the way. But yeah, like I said, the SpongeBob Squarepants movie was written and directed by Steven Hillenburg. It came out in 2004. It was released in the year 2004. It was a big hit. Everyone loved it. I have good memories of this movie. I have good memories of this movie. A movie I am fond of. I really like. I was proud of the fact that I watched this movie in theaters. It was a really cool, nice movie. I was proud of the fact that I watched this movie in theaters. Really nice movie. Really just a really good movie. Just a really great movie, But now let's get into the plot movie. But let's get into just kind of the plot of this movie and just the cast. I'm gonna start with the cast first. So of course you have Tom Kenny as SpongeBob. You have Tom Kenny as SpongeBob. Tom Kenny as SpongeBob is great. Bill Fagerbakke as Patrick. I always like Bill Fagerbakke. But Bill Fagerbakke as Patrick is always great here. Roger Roger Bumpkus as Squidward. So yeah, so you have Roger Bumpkus as Squidward here, and you have Clancy Brown. I always like Clancy Brown's work. But yeah, you have Clancy Brown here as Mr. Krabs, and Clancy Brown as Mr. Krabs is always great to watch and listen to. And you got Mr. Lawrence as Plankton. But Mr. Lawrence voices Plankton here, as usual as always, and Mr. Lawrence, I always like his work. I mean, I always like Mr. Lawrence's work, but he voices Plankton here, and he voices Plankton as like the villain here, which is cool. Okay then, yeah. And you have like Jeffrey Tambor's King Neptune. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean the stuff that I hear about Jeffrey Tambor nowadays, but he voices King Neptune in this movie. He does a good job. He has a nice presence to him. And King Neptune's daughter he has a daughter named Mindy, and she's voiced by Scarlett Johansson. I did not know that. I did not know that she was voiced by Scarlett Johansson. That's crazy to think about. That's really interesting to think about that. Wow, I did not know that. Did not see that coming. Interesting that she did the Marvel. Yeah, it's interesting that she, done some other kind of starting out at some previous work before the Marvel movies. How interesting. And you have David Hasselhoff in this in this movie of all places. Oh my goodness. But yeah, you have like David Hasselhoff, as just well playing himself. David Hasselhoff from Baywatch. Okay, as like a nice little fun cameo, and and I always knew David Hasselhoff as like the guy from Knight Rider. I'm more familiar with him in Knight Rider than Baywatch. I know what Baywatch is. My mom grew up watching it, and yes, I did kind of knew everybody might wonder, but yes, I was definitely familiar with David Hasselhoff. I was a little bit familiar with David Hasselhoff even slightly before when this movie came out, like a little bit, but that's just because my mom was more familiar with him at that time, and she kind of laughed. I think she had a good time just seeing him in that movie, and this was probably like I said, this was probably like a lot of younger kids or viewers did not know who David Hasselhoff was, probably when they see this movie. So, the parents definitely knew, but like probably the kids were probably introduced to David Hasselhoff in this movie, which is interesting. That's pretty interesting to think about, really, when you get down to it. But I can go on and on. But overall, like a really good cast in this movie. Oh, you have like Alec Baldwin as Dennis. You have Tom voicing and you have like Thomas Wilson voicing like an angry fish, like a biker, like a tough guy gang club. And you have like Alec Baldwin as Dennis. We'll get to that, but wow, a lot of interesting casts here. Okay then. But like I said, let's get into like just kind of the story. I'm gonna get into just the plot summary of this movie. So here we go. Yeah, so the movie basically opens up with like a bunch of live action pirates, and it's like a nice gag where you see like live action pirates, and you see like the opening title, and they go and they like buy tickets to see the SpongeBob movie. I love the self-awareness. And then we open up in this dream sequence where SpongeBob is this is hilarious. So and one more thing, like how the pirates sing like the SpongeBob theme song. So I like it how like the pirates sing the SpongeBob Squarepants theme song at the opening of the movie, which is cool. That's nice, Yeah, so like I said, like there's like this opening sequence where the like movie kind of like where there's like this the movie kind of like shifts at like this. There's like this emergency of the Krusty Krab, and the Krusty Krab is in danger, and there's like large crowds. There's news reporters. There's people. There's like police helicopters everywhere around the Krusty Krab. You're like, wow, what's going on? But then, this is the best part. So then suddenly SpongeBob, the manager, he calls himself in the dream, the fish crowd kind of calls SpongeBob the manager in his dream. And he arrives in this sport car. He comes out and he arrives in a sport car, comes out of this sports car, and oh my god, this is the best part. So the Mr. Krabs then says to SpongeBob that there's a simple order, a Krabby Patty with cheese, and then the customer took a bite of and then Mr. Krabs says like, then the customer took a bite and there was no cheese in the Krabby Patty, and this is the best part. So, and then SpongeBob enters the Krusty Krab, and he meets a fish named Phil, and he opens his suitcase, and SpongeBob meets a fish named Phil. This is funny. And he opens his little suitcase, and he has Twizzlers, and he has tweezers, and he takes out a bunch of tweezers, and this is where he dramatically puts cheese on the Krabby Patty, he puts cheese on this Krabby Patty dramatically, and the day you say, and the crowd starts cheering for SpongeBob, and the cheers starts. And then the day is saved, and SpongeBob saves Phil's and then SpongeBob saves Phil's Krabby Patty order, and then the day is saved, and then the crowd cheers, and then the crowd starts cheering for SpongeBob, and then the cheers, and then like these cheers soon start to denigrate to the sound of SpongeBob's alarm clock. So the cheers then turns to SpongeBob's alarm clock, and he wakes up. And then he wakes up, revealing that this whole opening sequence is just a dream. So it's a dream, though. So this whole opening sequence was just a dream. And then SpongeBob gets up and he goes to the Krusty Krab. So then SpongeBob gets extremely excited. SpongeBob gets really excited for the Krusty Krab 2, where SpongeBob heads to the opening of the new Krusty Krab 2. So then he heads to the Krusty Krab. Well, heads to the Krusty Krab 2, and this is where SpongeBob feels like he'll be like the new manager of the day, and he heads to the Krusty Krab 2. And what I like is, SpongeBob bothers Squidward, of course, and there's a scene where Squidward is taking a shower, and SpongeBob bothers Squidward, and Squidward just like, of course he would freak out and get angry at that. And he told him to get out, and then he kicked SpongeBob out of his house, and then SpongeBob then meets up with Patrick, and it's just a really hilarious, just a really funny movie. But SpongeBob then meets up with Patrick, and they both sing that I'm a Goofy Goober song, and there's an opening of the Krusty Krab 2, and it's like money. Mr. Krabs said, and then I like how Mr. Krabs, like a reporter asked Mr. Krabs what he what is he looking for, what's his most biggest thing he's proud of, and Mr. Krabs just says, I like money. And I just like how Mr. Krabs just says, I like money. So SpongeBob heads to the Krusty Krab, and what I like is, what I find really funny is, there's the Krusty Krab, and the Krusty Krab 2 just looks like the exact same thing, and it's right next to the Krusty Krab, and the Krusty Krab 2 just has it just looks the exact same thing with just a number 2 on it, and it looks like the exact same thing, and it's literally just the exact same thing with a number 2 on it. There's a number 2 on the top, and there's another 2 on top of it, something like. So then then the celebration starts. So then SpongeBob heads there, and then in the crowd, this is where Mr. Krabs announced who'll be the new manager, and he announces this new promotion, and then SpongeBob gets really excited and he freaks out, and before Mr. Krabs even announces who'll be the new manager, who will be promoted, SpongeBob just freaks out of excitement. He says yes, he just instantly assumes that he got the promotion, and SpongeBob's yes, yeah. It's oh my god, hilarious. It's my favorite scene where he just gets really excited, he just bursts into excitement, yes, yeah. And he just, it's just, I love it. Just the way it's executed is just so hilarious. The way it's executed is just so hilarious to me. But, oh man, and then it turns out Squidward is the one that got promoted to be the new manager, and then SpongeBob gets so excited that Mr. Krabs has to calm him down, and then SpongeBob just gets so excited that Mr. Krabs has to calm him down, and SpongeBob then got so giddy that he got so carried away himself that he assumes he thinks he's the new manager, and then Mr. Krabs has to tell him they know he's not the new manager. And then SpongeBob calms down for a bit, and then Mr. Krabs has to tell him that no, you're not the new manager. And it's Squidward that, and then Mr. Krabs promotes Squidward as the new manager, and then SpongeBob kind of gets upset, or he freaks out. He wants to understand why. He wants to know why he didn't get promoted. And Mr. Krabs has to politely tell him as to why. And I like how Mr. Krabs has to just gently tell him as to why. And I like it how, and the reason why is he didn't get promoted is just because SpongeBob was too young to handle the task. SpongeBob was too young to handle the task. So he's basically kind of too young to be so he's basically just too young to be manager. I mean, he's more a young adult in this movie, but Mr. Krabs kind of thinks or considers he's too young to be manager. He's not mature enough, and he's a kid-ager, or he's too much like a kid. He's immature. Mr. Krabs thinks he's immature, and Mr. Krabs actually kind of politely tells him. Mr. Krabs gently tells him that you're not that mature enough to be manager, and that's kind of very kind of provoking right there. That's actually that's actually a very kind of adult thing to hear in a kids movie, by the way. But what I like is Mr. Krabs that kind of then says SpongeBob is just too kiddish to be manager. So of course SpongeBob is kind of upset, and SpongeBob then gets a little sad. And what I like is then SpongeBob sulks away in depression. SpongeBob sulks away and gets sad, and then you see Patrick appears in the air and then Patrick appears in the air while naked. He flies in the air and then Patrick flies in the air while naked and with a banner and crashes. Thinking's fun. And there's like with a banner on his butt. There's like a banner on his butt, and he's flying in the air with a banner, thinking that SpongeBob won, and he crashes in the stage. And he's thinking that SpongeBob won, and then Patrick crashes into the stage, and it's just so hilarious. Oh my god. It's just, oh my god, I love this. It's just so hilarious. So, and let me just say, and I like this scene where, and then we get to Plankton, and we get this whole evil villain scheme, and, SpongeBob actually, he's, like, saying, oh, I'm so ready, and he, like, steps on Plankton by accident. Oh, sorry, Plankton. I just like this scene where SpongeBob's, like, getting excited, he's saying, I'm ready, and he, like, steps on Plankton, and he's like, oh, sorry, step to you, Plankton, and oh my god, I just like that. And I just like how, like, SpongeBob and Plankton have, like, a little chat, they have, like a little talk, and they kind of say, and then I like it how where SpongeBob basically says that, oh, well, like, they have a little talk, Plankton says, I will rule the world, oh, good world, and I like how there's, like, this scene where Plankton basically says, like, I will rule the world, and SpongeBob says, well, good luck with that. I like that scene, yeah. It just shows SpongeBob's just kind of naive personality, or, like, there's, like, it just shows SpongeBob's innocence, naive or innocence there. Like, Plankton says, oh, you're saying Plankton says, you're just a kid. No, I'm not a kid, I'm a man, I'm a big boy, I'm a man, I'm a big boy. I like that scene. But basically, there's another scene that's important where Plankton is, like, so jealous and angry that Mr. Krabs has more success than he does, and there's, like, no one there as Chum Bucket, and Plankton says, I will rule the world, and he comes up with Plan Z. So this is a scene where Plankton's, like, angry, mad, of, like, he's seen, oh my god, he has so many, there's, like, no customers in his Chum Bucket, and Mr. Krabs has so much success than he does. Mr. Krabs is, like, really successful, Mr. Krabs is, like, really successful, and then Plankton naturally also wants to rule the world, like, I will rule the world, he says. But Plankton also wants to rule the world, and then he says, you know what, I will come up with Plan Z, and he has Plan Z, and he uses Plan Z, and basically this is the plot, and basically this is where the main plot of the movie kind of kicks in, and this is where, basically, like, oh, I want Plan Z, I done Plan A and Z, now I didn't plan, because he's done Plan A's, because, he's done Plan A's, he's done Plan A and Z, and this is the first time he's going to use Plan Z, and Plan Z is, like, taking King Neptune's crown. So this is the first time he's going to use Plan Z, and his Plan Z is basically, kind of stealing King Neptune's crown or something for, like, power as bait. And this is basically where the main plot of the movie kicks in, where Plankton basically steals King Neptune's crown. We're introduced to King Neptune, and we see his daughter, Mindy. So we later see, like, King Neptune, and we introduce his daughter, Mindy. And I didn't know well, wait, they have a government, they have a mayor, but I did not know they have, like, gods and a king in this universe. Okay, then. And what's interesting is the King Neptune here, what's funny is, like, King Neptune was, like, a god in the show, and he looks different, and here in the movie, he's a king instead of a god. He's a king that rules the land of Bikini Bottom. That's interesting, that's new. And, what's crazy is, I'll get to that, and I don't know why they have a different design. It's kind of weird, but still. And like I said, King Neptune's voiced by Jeffrey Tambor. And, if you hear all, and I hear all, and, if you know what's going on nowadays about Jeffrey Tambor, the stuff I hear about him, all the allegations against him, the stuff, the stuff happening with him now, like the stuff what's going on with him nowadays, well, you know what I mean, but this is before what's happening with him nowadays. But this is before what's happening with him nowadays, you know what I mean. But he voices King Neptune here, and like I say, he does a good presence here in the movie as King Neptune. He has a good presence and authority as King Neptune in this movie. And like I said, I don't know why, like, they have a government mayor, but now they have a king here. Okay, that rules land. I'm like, oh, alright then. The king gods that rule this land. Okay then. But what's interesting is, like, in the show, like I said, King Neptune was a god in the show. He was a god in the show, but he's a king in this movie. Okay, interesting. I don't know. I don't know how they changed that, but okay then. I don't know why they changed the design from him in the show. Because in the show he was a god. I don't know why they changed him as a god in the show and having him as a king in the movie. I don't know why they changed his design as a king in the movie here instead. I don't know why, but that's interesting. That's kind of interesting here. But okay, kind of strange decision that they kind of. But that's kind of interesting they changed that. But that's kind of a strange decision that they changed like that. It's kind of strange. Interesting they changed like that. It's kind of a strange decision they changed like that. It's kind of an interesting decision they changed like that. But but you know what I mean. But basically, you know, Plain steals the crown, and he freaks out, and basically the crux of the movie is and he accuses and King Neptune accuses Krabs of stealing the crown, and he zaps Mr. Krabs, he freezes him, and this is where, like, and basically SpongeBob has to save King Neptune's crown, but basically Mindy believes in SpongeBob, and basically SpongeBob has to save Mindy's crown, and that's basically the story of the movie. And that's basically the main story of the movie and all that stuff. And then we get to this scene where SpongeBob is, you know, singing with Goofy Goober with Patrick. And I think earlier in the movie he was saying, "Oh, I'm a Goofy Goober," and then I like how later in the movie when he was sad and depressed, he's in the bar with Patrick saying, "I'm a Goofy Goober," and they get drunk. Oh, it's hilarious. I love it. Wait, let me just say that, like, earlier in the movie and I like how earlier in the movie he was saying, "I'm a Goofy Goober" with Patrick. Like, I think when he was like heading to Krusty Krab, he was saying, "Oh, I'm a Goofy Goober" with Patrick. Like, when he was heading to Krusty Krab, and then when he meets up with Patrick, then I think when he passes by and says hi to Patrick, they both sing "I'm a Goofy Goober" song. They sing this kind of weird, like, "I'm a Goofy Goober" song in the movie, and then later on, like, a Goofy Goober is like this weird Chuck E. Cheese kind of knockoff, and like this weird own thing, and I like how later on when SpongeBob was sad and depressed, when he was sad and kind of getting depressed, he kind of like went to Goofy Goobers with Patrick. So he went to Goofy Goobers with Patrick later in the movie, and they both kind of get drunk and like, waiter. Like, I love that scene. It is so fucking hilarious, and again, Goofy Goobers, like, just that name of Goofy Goobers, it's like this weird, like, kid scene restaurant. Goofy Goobers is like this Chuck E. Cheese place. Goofy Goobers is like this weird Chuck E. Cheese place, but it's its own thing, you know. And I like how Goofy Goober. It's just such a funny. I mean, Goofy Goober, such a weird, funny title, you know, place. But I like how later SpongeBob and Patrick both get drunk. I like the scene where SpongeBob and Patrick both getting drunk with ice cream, like banana ice cream and they both. And I like that scene where someone says, "Waiter." Like, I love that scene. Oh my god, hilarious. And then later on, someone kind of wakes up of a hangover, and he heads to the Krusty Krab angry, and then, you know, and like I said, this is the scene where, like, Neptune arrives at Krab's place, and this is where SpongeBob, like, he kind of gets up of a hangover, but then he's really still angry at Mr. Krabs, of not getting promoted, and then he, like, you know, tries to prove that, "No, I'm a man. I mean, he got drunk by eating banana ice. I like how he got drunk eating banana ice. I mean, he was, like, getting drunk by eating ice cream. Got drunk by then, but I like how, like, "No, I'm a man, Mr. Krabs," and I like that scene. And basically, and like I said, this is the scene where, like, King Neptune arrives at Krab's place, and he accuses Krabs of stealing the crown, and he believes that Mr. Krabs stole the crown, and also he has a fear of being bold, and oh my god, I like that scene where, like, oh my god, I'm bold, and like, "Well, you're even bold." "No, I'm fitting," and I like that scene where he has like a bag over his head, and everyone freaks, "Oh, you're not that bad, bold," and everyone says, like, "Bold," and it's like shining bold, and like one guy's eyes is burning my eyes, like, oh, I love that scene. Oh my god, like, just oh my god, good stuff right there. And I just don't know, it's relatable, understandable. Like, you know, he's bold, like, Star thinks he's bold, but he says, "No, I'm fitting." And then when he gets to the Krusty Krab, like, he has like this bag over his head. Because, you know, he wants to hide his boldness because, you know, he's bald. And I mean, because the crown is a source of, I mean, it hides his baldness, but it's a source of, like, you know, it's a source of, like, power too, and you know, it has, like, these good jewels on it, but it also hides his baldness, honestly. Let's be honest. And like that scene where SpongeBob says, "Oh, you're not, what, really? Like, oh, you're not that bad. Oh, you're probably not that bad without, like, the crown," and he reveals his baldness, and everyone's like, "Bold," and SpongeBob and all the fishes, "Bold." And I like how one guy, like, there's like this one fish that his eyes are burning. "My eyes!" Oh my god. I think that was like my LA guy saying that, I don't know. But I just, oh my god, I just love that stuff. But best scene ever, like, probably the best scene in the movie. But like I said, this is where, and I think that was like my late guy. Yeah, I think that was like my late guy right there. But like I said, this is where, like, you know, King Neptune, he accuses Mr. Krabs as stealing the crown, of stealing the crown, and then he zaps and freezes Mr. Krabs. So then he zaps and freezes Mr. Krabs and all that stuff. And this is where Plankton takes control, and he takes over the Krusty Krab, and he takes over Bikini Bottom. But Mindy believes in SpongeBob and Patrick of the quest to save the crown from Shell City. He was playing sell it to Shell City. Yeah, no, I like it on Mr. Where Mindy believes in SpongeBob and Patrick. Like, no, I believe in you too. You'll save the crown from Shell City. And then then they go on their journey, and the crown from Shell City. Okay, but that's the thing. The crown was sold to Shell. Plankton actually sold the crown to Shell City, which is interesting. So they have to retrieve that and save it from there. And SpongeBob and Patrick are on a journey, and they ride like this weird boat car, like this weird crabmobile, this Krabby Patty in a car. It's cheesy, it's silly. And like I said, so SpongeBob, I'm a man, I'm an adult. Later, no, I'm a man. And then he slowly becomes adult, and there's this scene where they sing, "Oh, now that we're men," with a mustache and all that stuff. Okay, well, I'll get to that. But I just want to first say, with the character Mindy, she's voiced by Scarlett Johansson, like I said. Yeah, so Mindy's voiced by Scarlett Johansson, like I said, and I like it how. This is interesting. This is where before she did Marvel Star, this is where she did her earlier, where she was starting off making a name for herself. And this is kind of around the time where she was making a name for herself. And this movie kind of came out before Scarlett Johansson did the Marvel movies and all that stuff. So that's an interesting thing there, right there. So that's a really interesting thing right there, about Scarlett Johansson and all that stuff. But like I said, later on, they're Patrick and SpongeBob, there's a scene where they see So, and actually, yeah, no. So I like how later on, when they're on the paddy wagon, when they're on the paddy wagon or paddy mobile, which is a Krabby Patty, which is basically a Krabby Patty that's a car vehicle. That's interesting. And they bump into they're getting gas, and they're getting gas. And they bump into these hillbillies, and these hillbillies are kind of just laugh. They just the whole gag is they just laugh at everything. They laugh at their kind of vehicle and shit. You're gonna make it to Soul City, and all that stuff. They kind of get out. I know we can make it down the country on Shell City. But basically, yeah, these hillbillies, they kind of just laugh at SpongeBob in their vehicle, and their whole gag is just they just laugh at it. They just kind of laugh at everything because they're a bunch of hillbillies, stereotypical hillbillies in a gas station. But then they get their gas, and later on. But these hillbillies feel like they can't make it to the country, so oh, you're gonna go to Shell City and all that stuff. But then they kind of make it there. And there's another scene where they're at a bar. I think Thomas Wilson voices the gang boss. And there's a scene where they're at a biker they're at a tough guy beat up beggar gang club. And I don't know, I just like that scene where they're in this gang club. They're in this kind of roughhousing kind of bar club. Who's the toughest? And just everything about it I just really like. Ooh, but, there's a scene where they want to maybe take a piss, and they walk in the bar, and they're like, yeah, let's get over, Patrick. And Patrick and see, that's the thing. In the bar's rule, the rule is no goofy goober, no bubbles, no goofy goobers. And then Patrick and SpongeBob they oh bubbles, and oh god, with the soap and. Yeah, and this is where they're in the bathroom, and they're kind of using the soap, and they create bubbles, and then the kind of the tough guys, the bar club owners, they see the bubble, and they're like, okay, who's saying, and they're hearing goofy goobers, who's saying goofy goobers, and they line everyone up, and he's saying, I'm a goofy goober, yeah, and then these two other guys saying goofy goober, yeah, oh, we got one. Oh, we got the guys who are saying goofy goobers, and they beat up those people. And so Patrick get out of there, but the owners beat him up, and basically they got out of that situation of the bikers beating each other up, and all that stuff. And then they kind of make it, and then they bump into this weird monster, this weird granny monster, but it turns out to be this giant fish monster, and this is where they lose their vehicle. Creature. Well, I'll get to that. But there's a scene where they're in this creepy land where they're in their car vehicle, and they're and there's this God, this is the craziest part. They bump into this weird grandma creature, but she doesn't be just well, this is a weird scene. If I can try to explain it, so she SpongeBob's getting a snack, and this granny turns out to be just a monster's tongue. So this granny creature turns out to be this this giant fish monster's tongue this whole time. It's really creepy. But then the granny monster falls down the pit, and then they're like racing. But then the granny monster falls down like this pit, this weird like kind of like in-road bottom era, rock bottom, like this rock bottom area place, you know. But this is where they lose the car vehicle. This is where SpongeBob had to lose the car vehicle and all that stuff. But then, and this is the other scene where like SpongeBob is singing the song like, "Oh, now there were men," and they're giving like these like they're just like green leaf, they're like these sea leaves, but they're treating it as like, oh, mustache, like, oh, we're men now because we have the mustaches. I like that. Oh my god. No, they have like they're giving these like with these green leaves as like leaves. They're giving these like these like green like leaves as like mustaches, and they think they're men now because of that. And they're singing a song like, "Oh, now we're men," and then there's like these like. They pass by rock bottom. There's like these sea creatures, and they kind of survive through rock bottom, where they see like these sea creatures kind of sing with them, and they're singing a song. Oh, now we're men, you know, something like that. Great stuff. Really like that scene. And then we get to like, you know, they have like they have like seaweed. Sorry, seaweeds as mustache. Yeah, they have seaweeds as mustaches, and then we see like Dennis, and you know. Then we see Dennis, who's voiced by Alec Baldwin of all people. Wow. And Plankton, well, this is the funny part. So, Plankton, well, first of all, Plankton, like, turns everyone in Bikini Bottom into, like, mindless robot. Like, he has, like, these buckets. He uses the buckets to, like, control people's minds, and he takes over Bikini Bottom, because he's saying, he's opening his business with a chum bucket now. Everyone's eating the chum bucket, and he has the formula now or something, but he uses like these bucket heads as to control people's minds. So excuse through that. So he basically uses the bucket heads to control everyone's mind. He's taking over Bikini Bottom, and Squidward sees through this, and even Squidward is kind of shocked. And then Plankton like kind of sends his army to attack Squidward. Now Squidward's under his control, and I like how Squidward sees through this, and Squidward's like, had enough of Plankton's bullshit. And Squidward's like, I know what you're doing, and Plankton's like, oh, really? And then he sends all his men, he sends his mind-controlled army to attack Squidward, and now Squidward is under his control. And then SpongeBob Patrick later finds out that, like, Plankton has now ruled over Bikini Bottom. There's, like, statues of him, and there's, like, statues of Plankton, he's ruled over Bikini Bottom, and all that stuff. And then I like it how, and this is the interesting part. So Plankton then sends, like, a mercenary assassin named Dennis, which is like, oh my god. So he sends a mercenary assassin to get SpongeBob. So Plankton basically sends a mercenary assassin named Dennis to, you know, get SpongeBob and Patrick. Yeah, his name is Dennis. And I like how throughout the movie, Dennis pretty much kills and beats the shit out of, like, the hillbillies, and he kills, like, the barfish owner guy. I like how the scene where, like, Dennis basically kind of beats the shit out of, like, the hillbillies, and he rips the mouth out. I like how this scene where he rips the mouth out of the hillbillies. Or there's a scene where, like, Dennis the fish, kind of appears by the tough guy club, the bar club, and he beats up, and he kind of basically kills, like, the bar club owner voiced by Thomas F. Wilson, and all the tough guy fish are scared of him now. And I like this scene where he kind of, like, basically kills and kind of beats the shit out of, like, Dennis beats the shit out of, like, the bar guy owner, fish guy, and this guy, and all the other tough guy fish are scared of Dennis now. And I like how throughout this whole movie, Dennis is, like, following SpongeBob and Patrick's tracks, and, SpongeBob and Patrick's tracks, and then Dennis finds SpongeBob and Patrick. This thing where Dennis finds SpongeBob and Patrick, and he, you know, and SpongeBob and Patrick saying, oh, we're men now, because they have, like, seaweed, and he rips them. And, you know, SpongeBob and Patrick think, like, oh, we're men now, because they have, like, seaweeds as mustaches, and he rips off the seaweed mustaches. And he rips off the seaweed mustaches out of them. And then Dennis rips off the seaweed mustaches out of them. And they're like, oh my god, and then they kind of realize, oh. And then SpongeBob and Patrick are, like, freaking out, and they're like, and I don't know, it's crazy. And he, like, and there's a scene where Dennis kind of has, like, he's gonna kill SpongeBob and Patrick, he's gonna step on them with his, like, metal shoe, and he goes, a real mustache, this is a real mustache. But let me just say that, like, you know, there's a scene where, like, where Dennis grows, like, this is a real man's mustache, and he grows one, and he puts one back. That's a really funny scene. Where he grows his own mustache. Like, there's a scene where he, like, grows his own mustache, you know, and then he kind of, like, goes back to normal. which is interesting. He puts it back. Well, yeah. Then it's like it's a funny weird scene where it's like where he like grows one and all that stuff. But like Dennis basically the fish. He basically kind of he has like these big shoes and he like has like and then his like boots. He has like these boots and his boots kind of grow into like metal horns and he has boots. Like has like metal horns and he uses his metal boots as metal horns to kill SpongeBob. Like I'm not kidding. Like he has like these like metal like boots with like metal horns and he's gonna step on SpongeBob and Patrick and kill SpongeBob and Patrick basically. You know. And then like this giant scuba diver smashes on Dennis. And then you get this giant I mean it's basically an old school scuba diver, but this giant Cyclops, they call it the Cyclops. The Cyclops steps on Dennis, smashes Dennis. So the Cyclops then steps on Dennis, and then the Cyclops grabs SpongeBob and Patrick, and then it turns out they're in Shell City. And then the Cyclops takes SpongeBob and Patrick to Shell City, and then they find Neptune's crown, and SpongeBob and Patrick, they're in like the Cyclops. So he's basically like a scuba diver. It's not well, he's like an old school like kind of old like they call it the Cyclops, but. Like man in a underwater suit. Back then they had like a man. It was like a man in an underwater suit, but in this movie they call him the Cyclops, and he's called the Cyclops, in this movie. And then Shell City turns out to be like just this marine gift shop, which is so hilarious to me. And these antiques of dead fish as antiques and all that stuff. And SpongeBob and Patrick are being burned by like the light sun, but then their tears revive them, and it like destroys like a gap, like a weird and then I think a fire faucet comes on, like, and then the water sprays, and this is where it gets interesting. So there's like these dead fish of antique store, and I like how Shell City turns out to be a marine shop. It turns out to be like a marine gift shop, which is hilarious and funny to me. And SpongeBob and Patrick, like they're getting turned into like he's using like light to burn SpongeBob and Patrick, and kind of burn them. He's gonna use that to burn them. But then SpongeBob and Patrick. You know, like I said, they find the crown. They're so proud. But then they use their tears to kind of, like, survive. And I like how their tears basically breaks, like, a fire faucet. Like a fire extinguisher goes off because of their tears. Wow. So basically, because of their tears, it starts like a fire extinguisher. And then it breaks. And then water sprays. And then water goes off. And then the water goes off. And then, like, all the dead fish, they come to life. And they attack the Cyclops. And SpongeBob and Patrick, they're revived. And like I said, the water sprays comes off, and like the dead fish, the antique fish come to life, and the antique fish comes to life. And all the fish, they attack the Cyclops, and the Cyclops gets his ass kicked, and then SpongeBob and Patrick and then SpongeBob and Patrick is revived, and then SpongeBob and Patrick is like revived, and then they get out of the antique, then they get out of like Shell City, and then they get the crown, and the Cyclops gets his ass fish, and I like how the Cyclops gets his ass kicked by fish. The fish kind of beats the shit out of him. The Cyclops, and then I like how the fish kind of beats the shit out of the Cyclops. And then SpongeBob gets out of Shell City. Then they retrieve the crown. Then they get the crown. And then they're like, wait, how are we gonna go home? And then they're like in this beach area. And I like how SpongeBob and Patrick. And then SpongeBob and Patrick basically says to themselves, well, wait a minute, how are we gonna get home? How are we gonna like get home and all that stuff? And then this is the scene, and this is my favorite scene. This is the scene where and then all of a sudden David Hasselhoff shows up. Then like David Hasselhoff shows up in the movie. I'm not kidding. Where he plays himself as David Hasselhoff, as like his Baywatch character. Where I like how David Hasselhoff basically plays himself as David Hasselhoff, where he plays like his Baywatch character. And I like it how, and you know what? Like I said, this is the funny part. Like I like it how when I was watching this movie with my brother and mom, I saw this. When I was watching the movie with my brother and mom, I saw this movie with my brother and mom. You know, yeah, I kind of did knew who David Hasselhoff was a little bit. I was a little bit more familiar with David Hasselhoff, but my mom was more familiar with David Hasselhoff than I was. Because, you know, she grew up Baywatch. And, you know, like I said, you know, if you're going to be asking, like, yeah, I was kind of familiar with David Hasselhoff back then. Like, I kind of knew who David Hasselhoff was at that time, kind of. And I was more familiar with David Hasselhoff as I got older. Like, I was more familiar with David Hasselhoff with Knight Rider than Baywatch. I never watched Baywatch, you know. But I've more watched the stuff than Knight Rider. And all that stuff. Like, you know, that's the thing. Well, my mom was more familiar with David Hasselhoff than I was. Because, you know, she watched Baywatch. Because, you know, my mom was more familiar with David Hasselhoff than I was at that time. But I was kind of familiar. I was more familiar with David Hasselhoff with Knight Rider at the time. And I didn't watch Baywatch. I never watched Baywatch. But at the time, and later on, and definitely later when I was older, I definitely was more familiar with David Hasselhoff when I watched the TV series Knight Rider, if you know what I mean. But like I said, but this is a funny, interesting part. Like, and you know, of course, parents really find it funny, but like parents really love it. But I find it interesting. Where probably like little kids kind of were introduced to David Hasselhoff this movie. Like, kind of little kids did not know who David Hasselhoff was when this movie came out. Like, I guarantee you, there's probably like this whole new generation where they like probably younger kids like probably did not know who David Hasselhoff was until they probably saw this movie. But the parents knew who he was, and they really liked it. But the interesting, funny part is, yeah, like parents definitely knew who David Hasselhoff was, and they probably like really enjoyed it for that part there. So they definitely had a good time when they saw that movie. So they definitely were more familiar with David Hasselhoff there at the time. So they definitely enjoyed it. So they definitely had a good time when they saw David Hasselhoff. So, and they definitely were familiar with David Hasselhoff there in the movie. And this is the interesting, and like I said, this is the really interesting part where here, yeah, probably like a whole new generation, like a whole younger generation of kids, like probably like definitely like a lot of younger kids were more like, they definitely were more introduced to David Hasselhoff in this movie here. So that's the really interesting part here. We're here in this movie, we're like a younger generation was more like familiar here in this movie. Where a younger generation of kids, where a lot of kids were introduced to him in here in this movie. So that's the really interesting part here. Where they were introduced, where you know, where they were yeah, that's where they were kind of more, you know, introduced to. Yeah, it's interesting where they were more introduced to here in this movie. So that's the really interesting part. That's the really interesting part right there, you know, if you know it. So, like I said, so SpongeBob and Patrick, they, you know, they're like, oh, how are we gonna get this? How are we gonna get home? And they're on a beach. How are we gonna get home? And then David Hasselhoff appears. And David Hasselhoff kind of helps them, and he swims. They're like riding on his back, and he swims to Bikini Bottom, or swims the surface to Bikini Bottom. Yeah, this is where David Hasselhoff, he swims to Bikini Bottom, and they're riding on David, and SpongeBob and Patrick, they're riding on David Hasselhoff's back. And David Hasselhoff is like swimming at least the surface, yeah, the surface near to Bikini Bottom. And they're traveling there, and then all of a sudden, like, Dennis shows up, like the boot, like the Cyclops boot, like the Cyclops' boot, like his foot is like swimming and coming, but it turns out to be Dennis. So Dennis, like, appears, and he, like, kind of comes back. And this is where in the movie, okay, like I said, like, and then they see, like, this familiar boot, like, this foot, like the boot of Cyclops. The boot of Cyclops, like, as, like, a car. It turns out to be Dennis. So there's, like, they see, like, the boot, like, of, like, the Cyclops character. And it turns out to be, and it goes away, and it turns out to be, it turns out to be like somebody was riding at the trap to get to SpongeBob, and it turns out to be Dennis, and Dennis survives, and Dennis comes back to, you know, get SpongeBob and Patrick, and there's like a whole scene where Dennis is trying to get SpongeBob and Patrick, and they're like, and they're doing it while they're on, like, David Hasselhoff's back. That's funny, like, and then SpongeBob kind of shoots bubbles at Dennis's eyes. His eyes gets burned, you know, and Patrick's like, I'm not afraid, and he gets punched. There's a scene where Patrick's like, I'm not afraid of running, and then Patrick like kind of charges up to Dennis, and Dennis punches Patrick. He beats Patrick, so he beats the shit out of Patrick. And there's a scene where Dennis grabs SpongeBob, and SpongeBob's like, oh, well, I got he has bubbles, and he shoots bubbles at Dennis's eyes, and his eyes burn, and all that stuff. And then Dennis gets hit by a boat, and then SpongeBob like jumps over David Hasselhoff's like arm. You know, because I like how, like, this whole, like, scene, like, it's going on around, like, David Hasselhoff's back. And there's a boat coming, and SpongeBob jumps over David Hasselhoff's arm to survive. And SpongeBob and Patrick survive, and they jump on his arm. And SpongeBob and Patrick survive and jump on his arm. And then Dennis gets hit by him. And then, like, Hasselhoff kind of runs around a boat, and then, like, Dennis gets hit by a boat and gets killed, and finally gets defeated and destroyed. Okay, good. And like I said, I like how you have Alec Baldwin voicing Dennis in this movie, and you have, like, Alec Baldwin of all people here in this movie, and he does a good job. I always like his stuff. Scarlett Johansson, Alec Baldwin, and I just like how you have Alec Baldwin here in this movie. You know, I like how you have, and I like how you have like Alec Baldwin here of all people in this movie, and Alec Baldwin does a good job here in this movie. You know, I always like his work. But he's a good job here, and in the scene, yeah, I like how, like, where David Hasselhoff, yeah, he's like trying to run around, he's like running across around a boat. This, like, boat, and SpongeBob and Patrick, they kind of survive, and they, like, so SpongeBob and Patrick, SpongeBob and Patrick kind of survive, and then, like, this boat hits Dennis, so Dennis gets hit by a boat, and Dennis kind of gets killed pretty much, and then, yeah, then Dennis gets pretty much, then he gets like defeated and destroyed finally, pretty much, and then finally, SpongeBob and Patrick arrive at Bikini Bottom, and then David Hasselhoff uses, like, his chest as like a bazooka, and he, like, uses his chest as, like, to shoot down SpongeBob and Patrick to Shell City. You gotta see the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And like there's like this blasted, that has to be some burr and sauce. I like that. Well, I'll get to that. But there's a scene where David Hasselhoff. Okay, so they reach the Bikini Bottom, but for them to get inside the water Bikini Bottom, David Hasselhoff uses like his chest. Oh my god, that's hilarious. He uses like his chest as like a bazooka, as like a bomb, and he uses it to shoot down SpongeBob and Patrick. He like uses the crown to shoot down SpongeBob and Patrick down in the ocean. Oh my god, that's hilarious. So then SpongeBob and Patrick, they make it to Bikini Bottom. They finally make it to Bikini Bottom. Then they find out like Bikini Bottom is being taken over by plankton. There's like statues of plankton and he's like ruling the world over Bikini Bottom. And there's like slaves everywhere, and it's maddening. And then SpongeBob and then Mindy's relieved that SpongeBob is here, and then SpongeBob Patrick confront Plankton like, yeah, we got Neptune's crown, and then Neptune's relieved and happy, like, oh my god, I got my crown, and then he got his crown, but then Plankton's like, I don't think so. And then he realizes super plane, and then he turns out he has a bucket for King Neptune, and then everyone's a zombie, and this is the finale of the movie. And like I said, SpongeBob confronts Plankton, like, yeah, we're here, and Minnie's relieved, Minnie's happy, and they retrieve the crown of Neptune, and Neptune's like happy, like he's like so relieved and happy that he got his crown back. Like, oh my god, he got my crown back. He's so happy about that. So relieved, like, oh my god, he got my crown back. So glad he got his crown back. So he's so glad that he got his crown back. And then Plankton's like, you know, I got my big ultra plan, and it turns out he has like a big giant bucket for King Neptune. Then he drops a giant bucket for King Neptune, so he can mind control him. So he mind controls him. Then Plankton army shows up, and then Plankton's mind controlled slave army shows up, and then and this is the finale of the movie. This is like the climax, and where and basically Plankton's like, yeah, you're just a stupid kid. No, I'm not. I'm not a kid. I'm an adult. And Plankton's like, yeah, you're just a stupid kid. Okay. And then this is the final. Then he gets into song mode, and SpongeBob is like, "No, okay. You stop that now. You stop that now." He's like, "I'm a goofy." And he sings, "I'm a goofy goober," about with rock and roll theme. And Blaine gets blasted, and wait, this is the best part. Okay, this is the greatest part. So I like how Blaine's like, you're just a stupid kid. No, I'm not. Blaine's argue with him you're just a stupid kid. You know what? You're just, and he's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm. And SpongeBob says no, I'm not a kid. And then there's smoke screen, and there's music and smoke screen. And Blaine's like, wait, you can stop. Wait, what's going on? Wait, you can stop now. Wait. And then SpongeBob's like, I'm not a kid. I'm an adult. SpongeBob basically says, and SpongeBob then says I'm a goofy goober. And then music erupts, and then SpongeBob is wearing sunglasses, and then he sings I'm a goofy goober, but with rock and roll theme. It's crazy. He's and then it gets crazy, and then gets blasted in the air, I like how Plane then gets blasted in the air and he gets smashed. And then Plane gets kind of he gets stunned, but he gets he gets Plane then freaks out. Then he gets blown in the air and smashed. So Plane then gets blown in the air and crushed and smashed. And then later on, SpongeBob this gets better. And this is the song where it says I wanna rock and put your I wanna rock. It's the best. But I wanna rock. And this is where SpongeBob says I wanna rock and all that stuff. And then he's wearing sunglasses and he has a microphone. And then SpongeBob turns into a wizard with an electric guitar and he's singing it. Then SpongeBob turns into a rock and roll wizard and he's electric guitar and he's singing it and it's crazy. And then he's zapping it and then he's zapping all the buckets and he's freeing everyone and he frees King Neptune.
So yeah, I'm a kid, and I'm also a goofball, and a wingnut, and a knucklehead McSpagatron.
What's going on here?
But most of all, I'm...
Hey, settle down. Take it easy. What the scallop?
I'm a goofy goober! You're a goofy goober!
Oh, what's happening? Huh? His dance moves are impressive, but I'm in control. Seize him!
then planes are everything all defeated and destroyed. And I like how, yeah, everyone gets freed, and then I like this scene where like SpongeBob like zaps and shoots like zaps a laser, like he zaps his laser up in the air, and then like Dave gets zapped, like unintentionally gets zapped, like oh god, and he's just like tartar sauce. And I like this scene where SpongeBob is like freeing everyone, like he's basically you know, destroying planes. He's destroying planes' army, and he's freeing everyone out of the buckets. And he shoots his laser, and he zaps up in the ocean, like he shoots a laser up in the air, and he, you know, frees everyone. And I like how he unintentionally zaps David Hasselhoff, and he gets blasted, and then he gets blasted. David Hasselhoff gets blasted, he unintentionally did. Oh, he unintentionally did that. But I like how I like how Dave Hasselhoff gets blasted, and I like how Dave Hasselhoff, and then I like how Dave Hasselhoff then says like, "Oh, tartar sauce," you know, something like that. Oh God, like it's a bird or something. It gets like blasted and burned and all stuff. But then later on, it's blasted, burned and all stuff. Then later on, like I said, SpongeBob like frees King Neptune's bucket. Squidward gets freed, and everyone gets freed of the bucket, and then he destroys Plane's army, and then you know Squidward gets free. Then King Neptune gets free, and then Squidward gets freed, and then Plane's army gets defeated and destroyed, and everyone's freed. And then finally, Plane gets defeated and destroyed, where like the crowd's like, hey wait, food, hey wait, Krabby Patty, hey wait, we're freed, and Krabby Patty, and then like everyone steps on Plane, like, no, I like that scene where like so basically what happened is like, you know, SpongeBob is victorious, and like everyone's freed, and everyone's so happy they're free, and they're enjoying the music, hey, so like. And you know they're excited for the food. They're excited for the music, and everyone's like, oh, they're excited for the music. And Plane's like, no, stop, no, go back where you're doing, no, stop. Like he's losing control. Like Plane's like losing control. Like this is where Plane's like losing power. And then I like how everyone like steps on Plane, and oh my god, and yeah, and then like I said, Plane then gets defeated and destroyed, and all that stuff. And then after that, like everything's restored, and like SpongeBob is like victorious. And then SpongeBob basically triumphant, and then SpongeBob basically triumphant in this movie, you know, and SpongeBob goes back to normal, and Mr. Krabs is freed, he's he's freed, and Mr. Krabs is proud, and he's free. And then King Neptune restores everything, like, you know, I apologize, Krabs, and so I like how then King Neptune kind of apologizes to Mr. Krabs, he apologizes, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, my apologies, I'm sorry I wrongly accuse you, and then he unfreezes Mr. Krabs, and Mr. Krabs is free, and the day is saved. You know, Mindy rewards Patrick and SpongeBob, and he's like, you know, a good friend of theirs now, and I like it how, and then Plane gets arrested, like, good. You know, good, because, yeah, I'm glad he goes to jail. Too bad he gets freed in later seasons, okay. And there's a nice scene where Mindy rewards SpongeBob, you know, Wendy kind of, you know, becomes good friends with SpongeBob Patrick, and he rewards Patrick and SpongeBob, of course, and King Neptune, and everything goes back to normal, and King Neptune goes back to what he's doing, and he restores everything, and everything goes back to normal. And then, you know, Plane then gets arrested, which is good. And then there's a scene where Plane gets arrested, and he then gets thrown into jail. And then I'm like, oh, good, yes, it should stay that way, but no. And then for some reason later on in later seasons, he gets freed from jail. I mean, you know, it should have stayed that way. He should have been in jail still in later seasons, but no, he gets freed from jail. And it is true he gets arrested and then gets freed, but like, you know, still, what are you gonna do? You're gonna milk SpongeBob. I mean, you know, and it is true that, you know, Clayton, you know, gets arrested, so then he gets free, and then he like appears in jail, and he like gets free from jail, and then gets free from jail. But still, it's like, what are you gonna do? They still want, but what are you gonna do? They still playing pop. What are you gonna do? They're gonna milk SpongeBob, or you know, they still want Plane popping up. They still want Plane popping up in later SpongeBob seasons. So you know, what are you gonna do? But like I said, but then later on, and this is the ending. I like the ending of the movie where in the ending. And, you know, I like the ending of the movie where, like, basically, like, Mr. Krabs basically awards SpongeBob as the new manager, and Squidward does this speech, like, you know, you grown as a person, like, and then SpongeBob's like, are you kidding me? This is the best day of my life, something like that, and the movie ends. And then, like, the live-action Pirates, they kind of leave the credits, and, well, wait, I'll get to that. And there's a scene where, like, you know what, and then Mr. Krabs basically, you know, kind of says sorry, like, he apologizes to SpongeBob for ever doubting him, like, no, like, and he rewards SpongeBob, and there's a scene where Mr. Krabs is, like, proud of SpongeBob, and there's, like, this nice heartwarming scene where Mr. Krabs is proud of SpongeBob, and he appreciates him, and there's, like, this scene with good heart where Mr. Krabs basically apologizes to SpongeBob for like ever doubting him, and then Mr. Krabs awards SpongeBob, and he awards him for being the new manager, and Mr. Krabs basically awards SpongeBob as being like the new manager of like the Krusty Krab 2, basically. No, and I just like, there's like this scene where, SpongeBob made this realization, you know what, no, I think it's like, I'm really proud I'd rather be a friend. There's like this nice heartwarming scene where Squidward is saying to SpongeBob, you know what, like, you would rather be a fried cook than the manager and all that stuff, and something like that. It's kind of like some growth, like, you know what, you would rather be a fried cook than the new manager, really who you are, all that stuff, and we're so proud of you, and you'd rather be that than this, and all that stuff. And so it's like, are you kidding me? I would rather be manager. Are you kidding me? I really want to be manager. Are you kidding me? Like, this is the best day of my life. And I like how then SpongeBob says, like, are you kidding me? And then he like grabs the manager name tag and he says like, this is the greatest day of my life. And then he like jumps and cheers and all that stuff. Oh my god. And I just like it. He flies midair and freeze frame. The movie ends there. And I just like it how like, oh, we would. And it's just the funny scene, like, this is heartfelt, but, I'd rather be in that, and he just jumps to free. I like that. And he's just like this nice heartfelt speech. And there's like this heartwarming speech, like oh, you're fine. Oh, I'd rather be. And he grabs his name tag, and I like it. And I like it how SpongeBob basically flies in midair. Like, he grabs the name tag from Squidward, like no, you don't want to be that. No, fuck that, I want to be me. It's like, Squidward's like, oh, you don't want to be. And I like how he says to Squidward, oh, Squidward, your fly's down. He gets the moral wrong. And I like how SpongeBob gets the moral all wrong from Squidward, and he says to Squidward, oh, your fly's down. And then I like how SpongeBob kind of says to Squidward, oh, your fly's down, Squidward. Oh, hey, Squidward, your fly's down. Oh, your fly's down. That's what he says. That's what he says to Squidward. And like I said, I like how he grabs the name tag and he flies midair. I was like, oh. And then, like I said, SpongeBob grabs, I like how he grabs the name tag, and SpongeBob says, this is the greatest day of my life, and then he flies through midair, and then like freeze frames, and the movie kind of ends there. And then you see like the live action pirates, and there's like this usher that tells the pirates to leave the theater and all that stuff, and so that they can clean up the mess that they made because they made so much mess with their popcorn on the floor, And the pirates are initially offended, but then they immediately understand. And they exit as the movie draws to a close. Okay. The movie ends where like the pirates are kind of they're told to leave. And they enjoy the movie until and then then the movie's over, and then the pirates are told to leave because they made a mess, and they're like, and then the pirates eventually leave because I like how then they're told they need to leave because of like the big mess they made, but then the pirates kind of like then leave the movie theater and all that stuff, and then the movie like really ends there, and then you hear like the Ocean Man theme, the montage of SpongeBob cleaning up the Krusty Krab, and that was the SpongeBob Squarepants movie, and I gotta tell you, this movie was just such, it was really good, like, this was such a good movie to watch, honestly, and like I said, and God, I mean. What an amazing iconic movie. I gotta tell you, it's amazing where, like I said, then you hear and then at the end credits, then you hear like the Ocean Man, the Ocean Man theme song. The song appears at the very end of the end credits of the movie. And then in the end credits, you see this montage. In the end credits of the movie, you see this montage where SpongeBob is like cleaning up the Krusty Krab, and SpongeBob's basically taking care of the Krusty Krab 2, and that's pretty much the movie and all that stuff. And that's basically kind of how the movie ends right there. And that was the SpongeBob, and like I said, that was the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. And I gotta tell you guys, what an amazing movie! What an iconic movie! Oh my! Even rewatching it, it definitely still holds up as a movie. It's really great, and like I said, it really holds up as a movie still. And rewatching it, it's really good. Even rewatching the movie, it's actually really good. Even after rewatching this movie, still, it was really good. This movie actually was really good when I watched it, so it still holds up. It's great. It still holds up. It's great. It still holds good. It's good. It's such a really good movie. I gotta tell you, it's still amazing when I watch it. There's so much heart and there's just a lot of heart and soul in this movie, and I could go on and all that stuff. But guys, like I said. But here's the thing, I give the SpongeBob Squarepants movie an 8 out of 10, and I think it deserves an 8. But guys, like I said, I give the SpongeBob Squarepants movie an 8 out of 10. And guys, and that's what I feel about it. And I think the SpongeBob Squarepants movie deserves an 8 out of 10. And like I said, and I highly recommend the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. And I really enjoy like this movie. And like I said, I highly recommend the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. And I definitely enjoy the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. And I definitely enjoy the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. And And I always liked the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. And I always enjoyed and liked the SpongeBob Squarepants movie and all that stuff. You know, definitely a really good movie. I always liked this movie. Really, really great movie. Really great movie. I always loved it. I always loved this movie. Definitely really good and iconic. You know what I mean. And like I said, you know, it's amazing to me where basically Steven Hillenburg wanted this movie to be the finale of SpongeBob, and you know he basically wanted it to be the final son of the SpongeBob. But no, Nickelodeon, they want more. They want to cash this series out, of course. They need more movies and seasons afterwards of this. And like I said, what's amazing to me is that what's incredible to me is that basically, yeah, Steven Hillenburg basically wanted the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. He basically wanted this movie to be the finale of the series. He wanted the show to end after this. And like I said, and he thought this was a good setup for SpongeBob. You know, this was going to be the series finale. This was going to be the ending. But of course, Nickelodeon, you know, wanted to milk the series out. They want to cash in on SpongeBob more. And of course, then they came more seasons after this. And of course, they made more movies after this. You know, it should have ended a long time ago. I thought this was good closure of the series. Good. It was a good, nice send off. Oh, but they made more, of course. And you know, God, it's crazy. I know, and it's amazing how they made more after this. But and like I said, this should have been the ending of the series. This was going to be the ending of this was going to be the true ending of the series, and he should have ended it there. But no, they kept making more, and I thought it was good. And I thought it was a good closure for SpongeBob, and I thought it was a good closure for SpongeBob there. But no, they made more, of course. But no, like I said, but there's a lot of heart and soul in this movie. But what we really like in this movie, there's a lot of heart and soul in this movie. But this movie is amazing, and I always love this movie. But look, this movie, but I always love this movie, and this movie is amazing, and I can go on and on. It's kind of amazing. It's a shame that they keep making more. Should have ended there, but I'll go on and on. That's all I gotta say, guys. But overall, guys, and like I said, guys, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a shame. It should have ended there. It's crazy how they kept making more after this. I could go on and on. But look, overall, guys, that's kind of all I gotta say on the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. And overall, guys, yeah, those are my thoughts on the SpongeBob Squarepants movie. And that's pretty much it, guys. And that's kind of all I gotta say. Yeah, so that's all I have for you, and those are my thoughts. So that's kind of all I gotta say. So overall, guys, I'm Retro Critic, and I'm out. And I'll see you guys later, and I'll see you guys around, and peace out, and bye.